How's it going, guys? Out here in a local nature preserve, just doing a little day hike, testing out some new gear. I got a new tent, so I'm gonna set that bad boy up right now. It's kind of like a first look video. Well, it's actually like a second look video because I actually set it up in my backyard before this, but first look, like initial impressions, because obviously I've never slept in it before. I was actually gonna take it out last night, but I got word this week that I got next Friday off, so that means 3-day weekend, which means I get to go somewhere way cooler next weekend. So testing this thing out then. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this thing up and let you guys know my initial thoughts. So here we have the 6 Moon Designs Deschutes Tarp. This is actually not a tent, it's really considered a tarp because it doesn't have a bug net inside of it or a floor or anything like that. This can actually be paired with this piece, which is the 6 Moon Designs Serenity net tent. This is also compatible with I think like 2 or 3 of their other tarp shelter designs. I got this for the versatility of it. I like tarp camping a lot when there's no bugs, so in the off seasons like early spring, late fall into winter, I love sleeping under tarps. This is kind of cool because I can bring the net tent if I am unsure if it's going to be like super buggy or if I'm going to need that extra protection, because this is super light. I think this net tent actually only weighs like 10 ounces. So the whole setup itself, I believe, weighs like 26 ounces with the pair. So far on the tarp here, I really like the design of it. If you've been watching me or following my videos for a while now, pretty similar to the tent that I've been using, which has been the LiteAF prototype. Not in production, so don't ask about it, but it's very similar to that as far as just having a tarp and a bug net that are 2 separate pieces. Construction and the setup of this particular model, it's way different than what I'm used to. A little bit harder to set up, and you can see I also have the carbon fiber pole here in the middle. So this is pretty much like a 1 pole tent. It's like 1 trekking pole you can set this up with, or you can buy the 49-inch carbon fiber tent pole for it from 6 Moon Designs. I think it's like maybe 20-30 bucks, somewhere around there, to get this piece. Super light, way lighter than any trekking pole you're gonna find. So if you're not one to hike with trekking poles, you have this option. A little bit tricky with just the 1 pole setup. You have 1 height. As we're trekking poles, I can put it inside and then slowly lift it up. This, I kind of have to stake it out really loosely in order to get the pole up and then go out and adjust my tie outs, which is pretty common for any tent. You want to make sure you get it staked down pretty tight. Material on this one, it's a sil nylon, I believe. It's waterproof. It does absorb some water though, like I was talking about in the last video I made about tents. So it's going to be a little bit heavier after a night's rain. Also, you're gonna have something I didn't cover in that last video, which is sill sag. Temperature changes, if it rains a lot, the tent, even if you set it up super tight, it's gonna start sagging and everything's kind of gonna be falling in on you in the middle of the night. Not a deal breaker. It doesn't, it'll be fine. It's not gonna like fall over. But a lot of times you'll want to get out and re-tie out or cinch down all your line locks on the corners, tighten it back up again. It's just something you deal with sil nylon tents. So I'm really pleased with the amount of room in here. Definitely a lot of room. I'm gonna set up the bug net and show you guys that in a minute. But overall, just using it as a tarp, tons of room. The vestibule is very large. And if you can see also, it doesn't come all the way to the ground. So there is a huge gap where wind's gonna be coming in. So this is definitely a tent that you're gonna have to like orienteer depending which way the wind is coming from. You definitely wanna set up the back towards the wind. I like the open shelters. Like I mentioned in previous videos, warmth is something I don't depend on a tent for. I like having good airflow. I'm not a fan of condensation. Definitely not a bad thing in my opinion. But like I said, big vestibule space there when I have the net tent in here, which means a good amount of room to get my stove out and cook food if it's raining or if the weather gets super bad. Since the vestibule doesn't come all the way to the ground, could be an issue for cooking because of wind, but then again, you're not always cooking under vestibule, so most people carry windscreens for their stoves, so that's really a non-issue. That's just nitpicking. The pole here you can set up straight up and down from the middle. You can also angle it towards the front, which I saw a lot of pictures of these being set up in that way to give yourself more room in the back of the tent. And you angle it forward and you just kind of make sure everything's tight out and it's not going to fall over or anything. So on both sides of the tent here, you can see there's little tabs on the outsides, which are to attach guy lines, so I can pull it out like this, get more headroom if I want. So I'm gonna get in here now and set up the Serenity bug net. Now this bug net is what it is. It's a bug net. This is the one piece of this I'm unsure about. The tarp so far, I absolutely love it. Already getting better at setting it up and everything. This is an okay pitch right now. It's definitely not as tight as it could be. The bug net has me concerned in a few areas. The corners, so this is the corner of the floor. It's tied with these it's got these little clips on these elastic bands here, which is kind of weird because if you attach this, elastic doesn't really get super tight. So if this was like a normal line lock or some type of cordage, when that was tight it'd be good, but since it's always kind of got that springy action, I couldn't really get it tight last time, and it attaches directly to these little hooks on the edge of your tarp here. So depending where you have your tarp set up, it's going to dictate how tight your bug net is. So there's really no room for adjustability as far as the bug net goes. There's no compression strap or anything on here, so there's really no adjustability as far as tightness goes on this. The top basically has the same style clip that hooks to the top of the tarp there on the inside, so it hangs down and it's got the 4 corner tie outs. The pole actually goes through a grommet that's on the front, and the back actually has a tie out too. So lots of points of contact, but we're gonna see how tight we can get this in there because this is super small. It's very, very narrow. I actually brought a sleeping pad today if I wanted to see how it fits in there. Definitely more narrow in the width department than any tent I've ever used. So that being said, I'm gonna try to get it as tight as I can, or it's gonna feel like a coffin in there. But either way, it's a functional bug net, so I'm sure it's gonna do its job. So here on the front is my little grommet that's gonna take my pole here, which could be a little tough because I don't want to break my carbon fiber pole here. See, I actually, since I had the tarp set up first, I actually have to loosen the tarp to get this out of the ground without risking breaking it to get it in there. So something to think about there. So I loosen one side. That gives me enough to get this out, get that in the grommet. Pretty good there. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this back up. It's got like pretty much like normal like compression style locks on the straps here, so pretty quick and easy to set up. So once again, it's got these little clips, these little plastic clips, which can actually, I could see these being a problem in the cold with cold fingers trying to push in this little clip like a carabiner style action to get that off, but they just hook right here on the sides. Pretty easy to attach. I would say not easy to disassemble, so tear down in the morning is definitely going to be a little bit harder. You might be able to reach in from the outside to do this, but you kind of have to crawl in there to reach under and hook these up. I'm going to try from the outside though. I did it the other way last time. See, this is kind of hard, not a lot of headroom. Probably a better option to do it from the outside. So let me go back to that. Once again, only set this up once, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'll get better at it. So I got all 4 points staked out. I'm gonna go ahead and stake out the back one now. If I can reach it. There's a string on here on the top, and I assume that's so I can hook this to the pole and use the tent like by itself without the tarp. Got a little Velcro piece here. I hook on the pole. I can just pull this right up and hook this right on top. And there is the bug net. So you can see the corners. The bathtub floor doesn't really lay on the ground flat because I got my tarp up off the ground. So if I potentially got the tarp to come straight down to touching the ground, maybe that would sit up a little bit better like that. But I don't always set my tarps up completely on the ground. Maybe it's meant to be set up like that. But they have 8-inch bathtub floors on the ends of this. The front and the back are a little bit smaller. That's not a terrible setup. You can definitely see it's a little saggy in here. I wish there was some way to attach the bug net on the inside of the tarp, because it's really easy to get the tarp tight, but the bug net is just kind of hanging. Not a problem, but it being a very small bug net could be a problem if you're claustrophobic. So decent amount of room in here. It actually looks better than it did last time I set it up. This will be my shelter of choice this summer. So I'm actually gonna put this thing through a lot of use. I like the versatility of it. I like the airflow. I like having the tarp option. I like having the option to sleep under the stars if I know there's not gonna be any rain. So this is good. It's got enough room for my gear. I can even use the back vestibule here for shoes or gear or whatever I want to put back there. This is definitely good. Be watching for like a full review on it. I'm gonna probably use it for a solid 6 months to a year before I actually try to give it a full review, everything I think about it. Because there's definitely some things I'm unsure about, which is on the bug net here. I just wish everything could be more tight. Kind of would like to modify it. It's just kind of like the MacGyver in me wants to already start messing with stuff. Decent amount of space in there. So I'm only 5'7", so I'm short. If you're 6 foot tall, I don't know, you might not like the walls falling in on you here, but this is definitely fine. The guy out points here on the tarp will definitely help keep the wet moisture off of the bug net and off of my sleeping bag. So really nice little shelter here. I think I could get this set up in the rain pretty easy. And the good thing is you can set up the tarp like I showed you before the bug net. So set the tarp up really quick, then put the bug net and everything you're actually gonna be laying on. I really like this so far. It's a good shelter. Got really everything I'm looking for. Definitely a little bit small in the bug net department. I will say it's a little bit wider than I remembered it from the first setup. This is definitely gonna be my tent of choice for this summer. Also got this little vent here too, to get a good airflow if I have the vestibule and everything zipped up, which is really nice because even with that big of an opening under the vestibule, I think that'd be enough ventilation, but it's got even extra ventilation up top there. That's cool. I like the guy out points. Always good to have on a tarp. I'm wondering if they maybe should have put 1 or 2 back in the back here, but time will tell on that. I'm feeling a lot more confident about this now that I set it up the second time, which is usually how things go. You can't just set it up one time and be a master at it. So the cool thing about the 6 Moon Deschutes tarp is you can actually get it in a DCF, so a Dyneema version, which is, you know, more lighter, more waterproof, more better, more expensive. More in every way. Feeling pretty good about the Serenity net now. I think it'll be big enough for sure. I don't think it'd be big enough for people that are a whole lot bigger than me, but definitely good. I like the coverage that the tarp gets over the bug net too. Definitely not gonna get wet in there at all. But that's gonna pretty much wrap it up for the first look video here. Taking it out next weekend, probably somewhere cool now that I get a 3-day weekend. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. So hit that subscribe button down below and the little notification bell beside it so you can see the video next week. I'll notify you of that if you click that bell. Of its debut adventure into the wilderness. But that'll wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more stuff like this in the future. Any questions or comments down below, put them in the comments. I'll try to get to them. And yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.